On the evening of June 7th, 2026, the Middle East edged closer to a wider conflict. Iran launched a significant barrage of missiles directed toward Israel. This dramatic act did not happen in a vacuum. It was a direct and swift retaliation for an event that occurred just hours earlier. An Israeli airstrike had targeted the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Reports from the ground, confirmed by sources like Al Jazeera, indicated that this initial strike resulted in at least 2 fatalities and left 20 others wounded. The attack on Beirut was seen by many as a provocative move, and Iran's response was not long in coming. The world watched, holding its breath, as a regional flashpoint ignited. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps quickly claimed responsibility for the missile launches. In a statement broadcast on state media, the IRGC framed the attack not as an act of aggression, but as a warning to Israel. They stated that their actions were a direct consequence of Israel's ongoing siege of Lebanon, and more immediately, the deadly airstrike in Beirut. This messaging was carefully crafted to position Iran as a defender of its allies and a reactive force, responding to what it termed Israeli aggression. Air raid sirens wailed across northern Israel, sending residents running for shelter. The Israeli military released a statement shortly after, which was widely reported by outlets including the BBC. They claimed that their sophisticated multi-layered air defense systems, including the famed Iron Dome, had successfully intercepted all incoming missiles from Iran. They sought to project an image of strength and control, reassuring their citizens that the country was protected. The military's initial reports focused on the success of their defensive capabilities, attempting to downplay the impact of the Iranian barrage and manage public fear. This rapid sequence of events, an airstrike, a missile barrage, and an interception claim, pushed the region into a state of high alert. The exchange happened against the backdrop of a teetering ceasefire in Lebanon, a truce that had been brokered with significant international effort. The attack and counterattack demonstrated the profound fragility of the situation. Each action was a direct challenge to the other side, a move in a dangerous geopolitical chess game where the pieces are missiles and the board is a region already scarred by conflict. The immediate question on everyone's mind was whether this was the beginning of a full-scale war. Well, the world waited. The first signs of the attack appeared not in official communiques but on the screens of smartphones. Televisions. Iranian state media was the first to release dramatic footage. Missiles arcing into the night sky. Launch sites inside Iran. These were powerful images, a message of reach and willingness to use force. The clips were quickly picked up by international news agencies. Al Jazeera broadcast them globally. The visuals were stark. Iran on the offensive, broadcasting a response to the Beirut strike. Almost simultaneously, videos began to surface from northern Israel. Citizens from the safety of their homes captured the sky lighting up with explosions. Citizens from shelters captured the sky lighting up with explosions. Social media posts on X showed interceptor missiles meeting their targets. Some clips appeared to show impacts on the ground. These unverified but compelling videos created a confusing, frightening narrative. Israeli authorities insisted on a 100% interception rate. The footage circulating online suggested that at least some projectiles may have slipped through the defensive shield, creating a discrepancy between official statements and eyewitness accounts. The human impact, though thankfully limited in the initial hours, was undeniable. In Lebanon, hospitals in Beirut were dealing with the aftermath of the Israeli airstrike, treating the 20 wounded individuals. The attack shattered the relative calm that had settled over the city. In northern Israel, the military reported no major damage or casualties, but the psychological toll was immense. The sound of sirens and explosions in the sky reignited deep-seated fears. Seeing the nation's air defenses in action is a terrifying spectacle, a reminder of the constant threat under which communities in the region live. In the hours that followed, Israel did not remain passive. After asserting that its defenses had held, the Israeli military announced a retaliatory action. It stated that its forces had launched precision strikes against Iranian radar sites. This was a calculated response, aimed at degrading Iran's ability to coordinate further attacks without triggering an even larger escalation. The Israeli government framed this action as a necessary step to protect its sovereignty and ensure the safety of its citizens. Reported by the BBC, reported by Al Jazeera. The crisis was far from over, entering a more dangerous phase. And tensions kept rising. In the chaotic aftermath of the missile exchange, a war of information raged alongside the military skirmishes. Iran immediately deployed their media apparatus to shape the narrative. Israel immediately deployed their media apparatus to shape the narrative. Iran's state-controlled news agencies, IRGC's media wing, worked in concert to portray the missile launch as a decisive and powerful success. They released professionally produced videos of the launches, then claimed their missiles had struck intended targets. Israel denied these claims. This was to demonstrate strength to the enemy, to their own population, and to allies across the Middle East. On the other side, the Israeli military spokesperson's unit was equally active. Their primary message: technological superiority and resilience. They emphasized successful interception of all missiles to reassure the Israeli public and project invulnerability globally. They controlled information, highlighting Iron Dome David's sling. Tel Aviv's official line carried by major outlets: the Iranian attack was a complete failure. Images suggesting impacts were dismissed or attributed to falling debris from interceptions. Caught in the middle, global news organizations and the public. Outlets like the BBC, Al Jazeera faced verifying claims in real time. They reported official statements from both governments, labeled as such. They began geolocating and verifying amateur videos flooding social media. Journalists noted discrepancies. Israel claimed total success. Some footage contradicted that. Verification is crucial but slow, leaving a confusing initial picture. Every missile launch now brings a flood of digital content. Images and videos from official sources. Private citizens are weapons in the information war. They are used to build morale, intimidate enemies, and rally international support. For the average person, it's hard to discern ground truth. Distinguish state propaganda. Genuine eyewitness accounts, outright misinformation is a significant challenge. Trusted sources like the BBC, with claims unverified caveats, become essential. So, people watched closely and waited for clearer answers. The events of June 7, 2026 did not erupt from nothing. They are the latest chapter in a long and complex history of animosity between Iran and Israel, a shadow war often fought through proxies and in third countries. For years, the two nations have been engaged in a clandestine struggle involving cyber attacks, assassinations, sabotage. However, direct state-to-state military exchanges have been rare. This missile attack represents a significant and dangerous departure from the established norms of their conflict, bringing them into open and direct confrontation. This escalation occurred on the volatile stage of Lebanon, a nation long caught in the crossfire of regional power struggles. The immediate trigger for this escalation was the breakdown of a delicate ceasefire in Lebanon. This truce, brokered with the assistance of the United States' other regional powers, was designed to halt a broader conflict that had been simmering for months. The ceasefire was always considered fragile, described by some diplomats as being on life support. The Israeli airstrike on Beirut was seen by Iran as a flagrant violation of this agreement. Iran, a key supporter of Hezbollah in Lebanon, viewed the attack not just as an assault on its ally, but as a direct challenge to its influence in the region, compelling it to respond forcefully. The broader context also involves a high-stakes geopolitical standoff over Iran's nuclear program and its regional influence. Israel has long viewed Iran's ambitions as an existential threat and has advocated for a hardline international stance. The United States, particularly under President Donald Trump's administration, has also been a central player. The U.S. has maintained a policy of maximum pressure on Iran, though recent months had seen a tentative shift towards negotiation. This complex web of alliances and enmities means that any localized conflict has the potential to spiral into a much larger conflagration, drawing in global powers, regional powers. This recent exchange reveals the inherent instability of the region's security architecture. The ceasefire, once a beacon of hope for de-escalation, proved incapable of preventing this direct clash. It shows that the underlying issues fueling the conflict, deep-seated mistrust, competing strategic interests, proliferation of powerful weapons, remain unresolved. Each side operates based on its own security calculus, viewing its actions as defensive and the others as aggressive. As long as this fundamental dynamic persists, any period of calm is likely to be temporary, and the risk of another, potentially more devastating, round of violence remains perilously high. As tensions flared between Iran and Israel, the world turned its attention to Washington and the reaction of U.S. President Donald Trump. His response was characteristically direct and multifaceted. Initially, he called for restraint from all parties involved. Through official White House statements and posts on his social media platforms, Trump indicated he was in direct communication with Benjamin Netanyahu. The goal was to contain the escalation and prevent a full-blown regional war. This call for calm reflected a desire to manage the crisis through diplomacy. However, it was paired with a stern warning. While the U.S. sought to avoid a wider war, its military was prepared to act decisively if necessary. He reminded the world that in May 2026, he had delayed a scheduled attack on Iran. He credited serious negotiations and the intervention of regional leaders, Emir of Qatar, Saudi Crown Prince. By referencing this, he signaled American military power remained on the table. In days after the missile exchange, his tone grew more frustrated toward Iran. He lamented that the fragile ceasefire in Lebanon was on life support. He said the U.S. had put forward a peace proposal to Tehran and mocked Iran's response as stupid. Al Jazeera reported this undiplomatic language, showing impatience with diplomacy. Allies worried the U.S. might shift away from negotiation toward a more confrontational posture, risking disruption of shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz. Trump's involvement adds a powerful, unpredictable element. His personal relationships with regional leaders, his transactional approach to diplomacy, and his willingness to use blunt language can all influence the outcome. His statements are a warning to Iran, a show of support for Israel, and a message to the American people. Behind the scenes, there may be de-escalation efforts, but his public rhetoric keeps pressure on all sides. The big question, can his diplomacy pull the region back from the brink, or will tough talk fuel the fire? As the dust settles from the initial exchange of fire, the Middle East finds itself at a critical crossroads. The path forward is shrouded in uncertainty. Possibilities range from a fragile return to calm to a catastrophic, all-out war. The most immediate and hopeful path is intensive, behind-the-scenes diplomacy. Qatar, Saudi Arabia will likely step in again. Their role as intermediaries is crucial, opening channels of communication that do not officially exist between Iran and Israel. The United Nations European powers will push for de-escalation, but the risk of further military action remains dangerously high. Each side has to consider its next move. Israel demonstrated the effectiveness of its air defenses and may feel emboldened to strike Iranian assets in the region. Iran launched missiles from its own territory and may feel compelled to respond to further Israeli strikes to maintain credibility. This creates a perilous cycle of escalation. Each defensive or retaliatory action is read as aggression, driving an ever-increasing tempo of violence. The impact on civilians cannot be overstated. Northern Israel, southern Lebanon. Parts of Iran civilians live with the fear of war daily. An air raid siren wails. An explosion lights the sky. Both bring profound psychological trauma. A wider conflict would devastate economies. It could disrupt global oil supplies, spike energy prices, cripple local economies. The human cost, lives lost, people displaced, futures destroyed, would be immense. The coming days will be decisive. Leaders in Tehran, Tel Aviv, Washington will shape the crisis. Monitor credible outlets, BBC, Al Jazeera, and distinguish verified facts from official claims. The situation is tense, but international de-escalation efforts offer a glimmer of hope. The world can only watch and wait to see if diplomacy prevails or if June 7th was merely the opening act of a much larger conflict. End.